And a good Monday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on this Monday night, the 23rd day of October, 2023, 10-2-3-2-3. Sort of sounds prophetic, don't it? We're grateful to have you tonight. And we are grateful to have a dear friend of ours, Tony Branco. He's coming up here in about 2 minutes. This is going to be a pre-recorded interview. And last about 40 minutes, and then we may take a few questions from you at the end of the night. No chat right now on the Facebook pages, and nothing on the YouTube. Folks, when we said we're taking questions and we had a pre-recorded interview, you can't ask a question to a pre-recorded interview. We've already gotten somebody asking us about asking a question to Tony. We can't ask a question to Tony. He won't be here. I'll be here. And we thank you for your input, but no questions tonight to Tony. The questions will be to me. But anyway, listen, we're grateful that you're here tonight, and we hope that you enjoy this interview. It's going to be powerful. Now, we recorded this last week, and I would say this was probably about a week into the fighting between Israel and Hamas. But tonight, we're going to be dealing with really not so much the war, but the reaction here in America and the lack of moral clarity as to who the enemy is and who is fighting for the right cause. I'm going to have a lot to say about that later, and we got James R. maybe coming up later tonight on a late night special. But we got a very busy week ahead, and we hope that you'll join us for each night, both the Faith Show Wednesday night. We've got great guests coming in the next few weeks, and it's going to be a very, very powerful McFiles presentation for you each night, and we hope that you'll join us for that and so forth. I got the red on tonight. That's for fire and to fight. And you're about to get some McFiles fire with my dear buddy, Tony Branco, and we hope you enjoy this interview. I'll be back at the end to talk to you a little bit, but here's Tony Branco, PoliticallyIncorrect.com. Enjoy the interview, folks. I'll be back at the end. God bless you guys. Good to have you tonight. And a good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with a very special McFiles pre-recorded interview. We are always grateful to have this man with us, Tony A.F. Branco, comically incorrect after all these years. I get it right. Comically incorrect. We're grateful to have him today. Man, I tell you, before I welcome you, I'll just say this. We've seen a very tumultuous few days, not only in America, but in the world. Tony's got some new cartoons we're going to be sharing with you this afternoon. But Tony, I want to say welcome. And I tell you, man, I don't take these interviews for granted these days. The world, since we've seen each other last, there's been so much going on. Israel's under attack. Even this afternoon, as we're recording, they've had new missile barrages coming in from the north. The first waves seem to be from the south. Now I'm understanding that Syria and Lebanon both are attacking Israel. I do want to welcome you to the show.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Thank you for inviting me back.
Oh, no, always. You've got an open door here forever. I do want to get your thoughts. This all happened Saturday, and when you heard the news, what was your initial reaction to this? Because I tell you, the Middle East is something that's going to affect all. It's the only region of the world where a war and a conflict like this has such a ripple effect. It affects the whole world. You know, the Ukraine-Russia thing has been more isolated. Other than us basically pissing away billions and billions of fraudulent dollars to it, it's not really affected the world. This that's going on in Israel is going to affect all of us, the world. And it's very troubling to see some of the images coming out. And already what's happened in the first 5 days of this, 6 days, Tony, it's brutal. It's been a gut punch to the normal person that's got any kind of moral clarity about what's decent and what's right and wrong.
Well, nobody could have said it better. This is beyond anything that the rage I felt when this happened and how it happened and what they did to those people. Oh. This is barbarism. This is barbaric. This is the most hideous. These people aren't even at a human level. I mean, most humans have some kind of compassion or something, right. But these people have none of it. They're just in total rage, total brainwashed. They've been raised since they've been little kids to hate Israel, to hate America. And I am having a hard time understanding how Israel could have allowed this to happen. I'm not saying they had a play in it. It's that Israel has the top intelligence. America's supposed to have the top intelligence, and they didn't see any of this coming. No. This is scary. Because we're allowing millions of people to pour across our border who we have no idea who they are, where they're from. Many of them are coming from countries that hate us, who have been raised to hate us. How many cells do they have in the country now, thanks to Biden's open borders? And the other thing is Biden indirectly or directly funded this terrorist attack. He's been giving money to Iran, $6 billion he just gave to them, and then $600 million to Palestine. Yeah. Not to mention all that weaponry in Afghanistan that he left behind. Some of that, from what I understand, and maybe rumors, is starting to show up there, to show up with our enemies. This guy is a buffoon. He should have never been there. And I don't just blame him. I blame the voters that voted for him.
Thank you.
They were warned over and over again, and they want to keep saying mega, mega, mega. You know, the white supremacy is the biggest threat to our country and the world. This is baloney, and people are just getting brainwashed by this mainstream media that wants to keep touting this BS. You got protesters in the street protesting against Israel and pro-Palestinian marches going on after what they did, beheaded 330 babies.
40
babies now. Yeah. Last I counted was 20, and then it was 30. Now it's 40. Entire families killed. And just in the hideous way that they did it is just barbaric. Okay, I've said my
no, buddy, and I couldn't agree more. And you know, it's funny. There's so much in that. I mean, I didn't disagree with the word you said. I think that it makes you want to look at Biden voters and say, is your hatred for Donald Trump worth it now? Because this is the world that you voted for. This is what you voted. I wonder this white supremacy thing. I wonder how much of a threat that is today compared to what Hamas would do if the Hamas terrorists were, in the face of these so-called scaredy cats of the mega group. I just wonder how much of this white supremacy bullshit would matter with a knife to their throat and their heads being cut off and their women being raped and their children being beheaded. See, this is what was so barbaric about it, Tony. That war, most conflicts are about military targets. They're about land, maybe, perhaps. They're about there's an ideology that at least civilized people, when they go to war with each other, there's a reason. There's a reason why you're going after a target, you're going after munitions dumps, you're going after maybe a threat. Even Israel, the only time Israel's ever went out of its way to start or to do something, they've been threatened. They felt threatened by an enemy, just what they did in 1982 with Iran when they bombed Iran's nuclear facilities.
Right.
And this was barbaric. This was a targeted attack on civilians, women, children, the elderly, the most, vulnerable among us. And it just has the feeling of just, I in my lifetime, I've not understood something so dark and demonic. And like you said, these people are not even human. This is a barbarism, a level of that. And then to watch these protesters, my friend, I'm going to tell you something. I've had to watch look, I'm a man of faith, but my faith has been shaken the last 3 or 4 days, because I would like to say some things that are probably not going to be too faith-like to these people, because they are embracing these people that have cut the heads off of children. And it does infuriate you to watch it. And then you got Biden barbecuing, man. You had one of your cartoons we got up now. He was barbecuing Sunday and saying, "Come on down to the White House. We're going to cook you some pork. World's burning. Yeah. Heads are being cut off. Americans dying. But leave it to Joe Biden to have barbecue."
There should be no doubt what side you should be on that.
Absolutely.
You have one side that wants to totally eradicate Israel and all Jews. Totally eradicate them. And that is the prime reason why they're doing this. They don't care about women, children. They don't care about innocent lives. It's all about eradicating the Jews. And the thing that really just I can't, it's hard to wrap my head around is how people can even fathom being on the side of the Palestinians and the Hamas. And I can't really. I'm almost lost for words, almost lost for words, but
it's unreal, man. You did a cartoon, and we've got it up now on the screen, the one you just did today, and I want you to talk to us about it. I know a lot of people are probably getting a good chuckle out of it like I did, but it's not really funny in the sense of the subject matter. But you've got the Ayatollah basically turning out Hamas and Hezbollah from his backside, and Israel's there, and Biden is spoon feeding him money. Tony, there is, in these things that happen like this, like 2 years ago when we left Afghanistan, people were just screaming, this is going to be a disaster. I'm telling you, these weapons are going to wind up in the wrong hands. When we were giving Ukraine all this money, we've been screaming, this money is going to wind up in the wrong hands. When he basically agreed to pay the Palestinian Authority $600 million, this money is going to wind up in the wrong hands. When he agreed to pay $6 billion to Iran, people were screaming, do not do this. This money is going to wind up for terrorism. And then you've got to suspend reality to believe these bullshiffers that tell you that we've got control of this. Iran can't spend that money on anything but humanitarian crisis, when the Ayatollah himself basically said, we'll spend it on what we want to, blank you. This is our money. This ain't your money. You ain't going to tell us what to do. And what they've done with it, Tony, they have regurgitated and turted out Hamas and Hezbollah, who are attacking Israel and doing these horrible things. But my thing today is that Biden fed them the money to do it, and is not doing anything to defund it, not doing anything to go after Iran. Look, I'm angry and pissed off at Hamas. I'm angry and pissed off at Hezbollah, but my anger boils to sun level over Iran. They are the ones behind it. They are the ones that need to pay for it. They need to be held accountable, both militarily, economically, and otherwise. And I'm going to tell you something, these Ayatollahs, if it was me as president of this country, or president of Israel, or prime minister of Israel, they would not be sleeping with both eyes open for the next freaking 60 years, because I'm going to tell you something, there would be a call for their extermination. They have drawn blood of our people, Tony. They've drawn of Jewish blood, but they've drawn American blood. We've got 14 Americans dead in this.
And taken hostage.
Taken hostage, yes.
But here's the thing with Biden and his ilk, because Biden isn't running anything. He's just a shell. He's a vessel that they trot around and read a teleprompter. He has nothing to do with any of this. If you look at Biden's words just 10, 20 years ago on Middle East, it doesn't reflect, it has no resemblance of what he is doing today. But these people, the Biden people, the Democrats, the left, they live in this little bubble of reality of what they want life and the world to be, this utopian type of construct that they want it to look like. And they make all their decisions based on this unicorn, frivolous, pathetic utopia dream world. And it's dangerous because there is a real world. And the real world is what Iran has sponsored Hezbollah, has sponsored Hamas, and that is the real world. Middle East, what they did the other day in Israel is the real world. And these Democrats and these leftists, they just can't wrap their head around it. They said, well, we gave them money. We did humanitarian support. Why are they doing this? They have no idea. We know what the real world is over there. Yeah. And I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
Oh, that's well said.
Other than draw a picture.
Well, even if you draw it in crown, though, Tony, you said something a while ago, and I want to go back to that. It's not just Biden. It's these voters. It makes you wonder how people with a brain, they say they got a brain, and they say they're smart thinking people, these intellectuals in Harvard, these intellectuals at Yale, these intellectuals in the Northeast, these smart boys, as we call them. And, they just look at us Southerners and probably even folks out West a little bit as little redneck Cracker Jack box people. We ain't got no sense down here. We'll tell them old Cracker Jacks and those rednecks what to do. Let me tell you something. You give me a redneck any day with common sense, and this bunch up there that's got their mind, I don't know where the hell they got it stuck. I don't even know what I can't even believe the world, this liberal world mindset that people live in. And look, I'm not sure if it was Savage or somebody said many years ago that liberalism is a mental disorder. And when I first heard that, I said, well, not everybody that's a liberal that I know is mentally off. But in retrospect, everybody that I know that's a liberal is mentally off, because if they can embrace something that they're witnessing right now, if they can look me in the face and tell me that the cutting off of heads of a baby, an infant, is okay with them. Like we'll hate Israel, we'll hate President Trump, we'll hate conservatism, we hate a closed border, we hate everything that you conservatives hate. We don't want free and fair elections. We don't want we don't want parents who care enough about their kids to go up to the school boards and tell Virginia and tell Michigan, you're not going to be putting porn in our kids' fourth grade literature. And we don't want that. But we want this, again, rainbow, green energy, la la land, meth-induced state of the world that we seem to be getting. And they can look at me and tell me that they are okay with what's happening in Israel this afternoon, with the cutting off of heads of the babies and the rape and the murder and the pillaging and the destruction and the debauchery, all because they hate Trump. You got somebody that is mentally deranged.
Absolutely.
Mentally, totally deranged.
But the media is the enemy of American people.
They are.
They're the enemy of our citizens because they're not telling the truth. People, I talk to liberals all the time. I mean, I have cousins and I have friends that are liberals, and they barely know anything about the border. They barely know anything about what's going on with the economy. They barely know anything about what's going on overseas. They barely know anything about crime, about defunding police. There's so much that the media just is not telling. And if they do kind of go into that area, they shade it with a bunch of this, oh, well, Trump did this and Trump did that. And It's all a big combobulated type of mess. And people aren't getting the information. Now, that is why the media is so down on the low totem pole as far as approval goes. I think they're just below cockroaches. Even politicians are higher than they are because, I mean, it's it's got to the point where now alternative media like your show is just growing leaps and bounds because they see things that people are starting to see the reality of what the media isn't telling them, like food prices up 20%, gas prices $7 in California, $6, $5. Although, I mean, people are actually going to the so whatever the media is trying to put roses and flowers on whatever's happening, they aren't buying it because their pocketbooks are hurting right now.
Do you think that there is any desire by this administration to truly support Israel? I know that he went on television. Today's Wednesday as we're recording this. He went on there yesterday for about 10 minutes, wouldn't take any questions, and reiterated, the only condemnation he gave to Hamas, he said, well, this is just sheer evil. Put your money where your mouth is, Mr. President. If it's sheer evil, pull the damn money. Pull their money. Don't be giving them money to perpetrate sheer evil on Israel. But I've asked several people, Tony, and I see you shaking your head, and I think we're in agreement with this. I don't no more believe that he's got Israel's back than Joe Biden has had America's back for 2.5, 3 years. And I think if it comes to shove, when he turned around, when him and her turned around and turned their back on the reporters, I just felt it in my psyche, my spirit. He's turning his back, not just on those reporters. He's turning his back on us. He's turning his back on Israel. And he's not going to, if push comes to shove, if Israel is waiting on them to save them and to help them, they're screwed, man. And we already screwed here, but they screwed if they think Joe Biden's got their back.
We're going to be fighting the war here. We're
Absolutely.
Going to be all those military-age men coming across the border. If all these liberals who think this is just poor Palestine, wait till your town starts having people drug out and their babies' heads chopped off. Wait till that happens.
Right.
Let me see how much you love Palestine, because this is the kind of thing that's going on. Biden is lying. He lies every day about everything. They want to give you the illusion that, oh, we care about. And at any time Biden gets out there and say, I got one word for you. If you think about taking advantage of this situation, don't. Everybody knows he's full of bullshit. Take your word, your phrase. Your bullshit is
great
everything
word
to do with this president. This president is a facade. He's a criminal, and you hit on something a little bit ago about global warming is the most existential threat to America and the world. And then we got all this going on. White supremacy. I don't see either one of those rising to any level that anybody would be concerned about. And that's one of the things I think people are seeing, that where is the white supremacy? The biggest threat to America's white supremacy and all this kind of stuff. Nobody's seeing it. They're just hearing it. And the media is, of course, willingly to just shout it out and get people to believe it. Some people, less and less every day, I think.
It's very well said. And, I've got a friend, he is a federal agent, and he goes to these overseas law enforcement conventions. He was in Tanzania, and our government was putting this thing on. That's why he was there. They told the officials from Uganda that they could not come. And my friend said, why can't the people from Uganda come? You know what our Department of Defense told him? The reason that they didn't want Uganda to come and be part, because this forum was actually about preparing nations for what exactly is happening in Israel, Tony. It was trying to get nations together to understand the threat of jihadism, understand the threat of open borders, understand the threat that we're facing today, They wouldn't let Uganda be part of this because Uganda's government does not allow the LGBTQ flag to be flown, and they do not allow LGBTQ people to serve in the government and push agendas that are contrary to their values and morals. And people can get upset about that and say, well, that's just so discriminatory. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. Government, I think, is keeping their children safe because I put it like this: Uganda don't want transgenders reading books to kindergartners and saying it's normal. Now, people can think what they want about Uganda. I applaud Uganda for that stance. But because they've got that stance, our government tells them you can't be part of this security. That's why it shouldn't shock us that Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran are having an orgasm every day of the week because they look at our country, how weak we are, and they say, baby, we got free reign to go do what we want to do. And Tony, they did it. They did it.
What is stopping them? That feeble, I want to say words that I should never say. That idiot in the White House. They look at him and they got free reign. They got free
That's
reign.
Right. They got it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it always kills me when conservatives are trying to burn books and censor books and all this stuff. No, they keep saying that, but it's only in schools where your kids are going to school where they can see it. It should be banned. We're not banning books. You can read any of those books that are in these schools that they're putting in these schools. You can read them anywhere else. You can order them on Amazon. You can get them at Barnes & Noble probably. Nobody's banning these books. We're banning them from schools where third graders through high school can read these things. If the parents want them to read them, they can go buy them a book and read them at home. Nobody's banning books. And to put priorities on global warming and priorities on LGBT and all this other stuff is just, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
But that's where I go back to. They live in this little bubble that isn't real. It's what they want it to be. It's this fantasy, this utopia, rainbow and unicorn farts. That's where they live. And when it doesn't quite line up to them, they want to kick it out. So you don't have anybody that's in reality dealing with with life, with what really needs to happen in our border, our economy, our national security. None of those people are dealing reality wise. And Trump was. Everything was to protect America and make America better. Every decision he made at the border, economically,
exactly right. Exactly right.
All of his policies, his treaties, his agreements with Mexico, it was all designed to make America stronger. Well, that making America strong is what really irritates the people that are in power right now in our government.
So true, buddy. That is so true. We've got 15 minutes or so. I want to. I know we could talk about Israel program, but you got some other. You got some other cartoons that I want to run by you. The thing about McCartney. Now, as of the time we're recording, it's on a Wednesday. They're supposed to be having a vote today, and we'll know who that is probably in a day or so. But it's amazing to me. And I want to just say this because it may go against the grain a little bit. I don't blame Kevin McCartney for all the problems in Congress. I don't. Kevin McCartney's one man. I think the Republicans in general, we've talked about this many times on our show together, they're a bunch of spineless, feckless, ballless losers I've ever seen in my life. And even, look, I respect Matt Gaetz and I respect Jordan. I respect Scalise. I've met Scalise. And they may be good men. But they bear the responsibility, Tony, just as Kevin McCartney does, for the lack of work in Congress. And Kevin McCartney may have been a problem. He may have had his issues. I don't like him and never did like him. I loved your cartoon where Nancy Pelosi was basically sticking him in the back. And he said, I can't believe she betrayed me. Well, guess what? You're dealing with Nancy Pelosi, Kevin, for goodness sake. And you got another one. But I do want to get your take on this because while I understand the move is necessary to perhaps get other leadership in there, my question to you is, do you think the leadership that's coming in is going to be any different? Because it's still going to take somebody with a backbone. And I don't see the Republicans rallying behind a ultra conservative person because the Republican Party's not ultra conservative. I'm telling you, they've gone freaking left.
No, the only hope they have, the only hope is that whoever is speaker, to be honest and upfront with all factions of the Republican Party. Whereas McCarthy was he was having these little side meetings, these backdoor meetings where the Conservative Freedom Caucus wasn't included, didn't know about it, and then all of a sudden there's this deal, and they're going, what the heck? So whoever it is has to bring both sides and be open and honest with both sides all the way, and fight for America, fight for our borders. We have more power right now in the Congress, in the House, than we think, because we control the purse. And as long as we control the purse, we should be able to come up with something. And McCarthy did some things. He did some things with the budget last year before the Congress came into session that he could have held off, but he went ahead. And there was just a lot of concessions he made to try to appease. And you can't appease Democrats.
You cannot.
Pelosi only had five members ahead. She had 5. We have 4 majority. She had 5, and she got a lot done by just fierceness. And we really need a speaker who has cojones the size of Pelosi's.
Absolutely,
be only fighting for what we believe in. And I'm hoping that I don't know if Scalise is the person to do it. I like Jim Jordan. I thought he could maybe pull both sides together a little bit, because you're right. We have so many factions. You know what? The Republican Party is more like democracy than the Democrats who run their outfit like a communist party.
Absolutely right.
And that's why we're having problems, because we run like a democracy. We value other people's opinions. Democrats don't. If you don't go with them, boy, they'll hurt you.
They will,
just like the Parliament Bureau in communist Russia or China.
Without a doubt. Do you think that, and I like Jim Jordan. I used to live in Ohio, and Ohio is a good state. I've lived there. I've worked there. It's really one of the better states of the union in many ways. It's not even purple to me. It's a conservative state. Mm-hmm. My only concern with Jim is that he has always talked a really hard, tough game. And then I'll see him on Fox News, and he'll say some stuff sometimes that I'll just shake my head. I mean, it's just like him backing McCartney. You know, when McCartney got kicked, he was one of the voices that was out there screaming at Matt Gaetz. And then, you know, I don't know if this is true or not. I understand that he may have voted for the more funding to the Ukraine. Now, he's come out and said that he will not vote for any more funding to the Ukraine, and that's fine. But it's a tough call right now. And I guess my point is that with this war going on in Israel, I don't know. And again, Gaetz had no crystal ball to see that 3 days after you kick the Speaker of the House out, all hell's going to break loose in the Middle East. That's not Matt Gaetz's fault. It's just the way the cookie crumbled. Mm-hmm. But they're strapped right now till they get a speaker in place, because we got to help Israel, and the purse strings come from the Congress. It comes from the House. And do you think that Scalise or him is going to, you mentioned pulling the factions together, but how are they going to work with Biden? I mean, because it's not just working with the other factions of the Republicans. They're going to have to stand up to this evil administration. And I'll give you a great example. Tea Party of 2010. When the Tea Party took over, and because of the Tea Party, we gained the House back under Obama. Tony, that Tea Party House, and that's what I call it, they literally withstood the Obama administration for 4 years until we could get the House back in full and get President Trump back in office in 2016. That House basically stayed firm, and Obama was choked to death, almost literally handcuffed in pushing any more of his agenda.
And that was a good thing.
And that's what we've got to have. And I was hoping that this last midterm we could have seen something like that emerge. And this House has been as feckless as it's almost like we got a Democrat-run House, honestly, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, we were supposed to be looking into impeachment of Biden, and that's just kind of stalled.
Yes.
And not stalled because of McCarthy being kicked out. It was stalled before. I saw that last hearing on Biden impeachment, and the Democrats came in and took our lunch.
Yes, they did.
I mean, they did. We have all this. There is no way you can look at the Biden situation and not come away that in itself is evidence. All his family members getting millions of dollars from China, from Pakistan, or not Pakistan, but from Ukraine, from Romania, a bunch of different places. You can't look at that, and then you got, on top of it, you've got classified documents in his garage by his Corvette just thrown around. A lot of those documents have something to do with Ukraine and have something to do with China. There's just a ton of stuff that where they could have, even though it may have been somewhat circumstantial at some level, it's still evidence. A lot of people go to jail on circumstantial evidence. And I just think that the Republicans weren't very prepared. And I think that whether it's Scalise or Jim Jordan, they can work with Biden, I think, to some level, but at least maybe we can just stop them. Maybe we can just stop their agenda.
Stop the agenda. Exactly.
Yeah, we got the purse.
Come on.
I don't know how exactly all that works, but there are. I'm sure Pelosi would have found a way. I'm sure Pelosi would have dug deep and found a way.
Exactly. You think about it, though, just the opposite. While she didn't stop President Trump's agenda totally, Tony, she at least, what she did, I'm not saying this in a good way, she threw monkey wrenches in everything he tried to do for the last 2 years. Man, it was tough. Mm-hmm. And the insane thing about this is that he had the House and the Senate for the first 2 years of his presidency, and he hardly could get anything done because of the rhinos in both Senate and the House. Yeah. And now when Biden first come in, he had both houses. He didn't get much done. But this House has the power to withstand him, just like that Tea Party House did in 2010. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. One couple of other quick fire questions, and these are opinion questions. And our show don't really delve into conspiracy stuff. I just I try to keep things on the grounded level and things we can prove, things we can see and verify.
Talk about what you know and
what about what I know, and I do. But I do want to ask you this. It's a serious question. I read a story the other day, and it was not a fluky magazine. It was a fairly reputable newspaper and news outlet. And the gentleman that wrote the story basically put this theory out there, and he said that if the impeachment don't work of Donald Trump, that perhaps Joe Biden paid all this money to these terrorists to do what they're doing to Israel. Because right now, if you think about it, in a matter of 72 hours, the Hunter Biden story's gone off the front page. Joe Biden's doc situation has gone off the front page. Corruption in Congress, Menendez's story has gone off the front page. Any story that has to be in a negative light about Democrats has gone off the front page. Joe Biden's approval rating being lower than a Pope's approval rating at a Protestant convention is gone. There's no talk about anything except two things right now in the media: Trump being indicted and all these fraudulent cases being brought.
They're going to keep that in the news.
And they're going to keep that in the news in Israel. And the other thing that's being basically stuck underneath is another $100 billion that evidently Joe Biden is going to go to Congress and request to send to the Ukraine in the midst of all of this hell that's going on right now. He's wanted another $100 billion for Ukraine.
Yeah.
So it's convenient that all of a sudden we've got a war in the Middle East. And again, nobody knows, but even if you tie the money back to the Biden money, then he's indirectly involved with what went on in Israel. And the question the guy brought up was, if that don't work and the Trump stuff don't work, the next thing they can do, they're going to try to stop the elections. Has Tony Branco ever made that thought and connection that there is a possibility, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but there's a possibility that they would try to do that next year, to just literally just say we're not going to have elections anymore and cease and stop those?
I don't put anything past these people. These people will do whatever it takes to stay in power. They will open the borders and allow a bunch of people to come in and fill out mail-in ballots. They will have mail-in ballots. They'll do whatever it takes to stay in power. So if this is true, I wouldn't put it past them to do it, because power is everything. In their brains, if they don't have power, then life can't exist without them. So it's worth a little bit of collateral damage along the way to stay in power, because it's for the greater good. See,
of this liberal agenda.
Yeah, the greater good means more than people's lives and their freedom and all that. And it's this communist Marxist thinking that has been cultivated since the 40s, since the 30s in our country. It's permeated our institutions, our education, our bureaucracies. This is so thick with Marxist thinking type people. I don't know how we eradicate it. And on the other side of the Palestinian thing, the whole idea that this belongs to Palestine, the Romans destroyed Israel and destroyed their buildings, and a lot of people, Jews, fled. And Rome renamed it Palestine to eradicate the Jews.
Exactly right, Tony.
There was never any Palestinians, and a lot of Jews remained in Israel, in that area. And a lot of the people, so-called Palestinians, were in Jordan. They were in all kinds of other areas. And then when the Israelites came in and they formed a new country, all these so-called Palestinians showed up from everywhere like it was their land. It never was their land. It's been Israel. It's belonged to the Jews since thousands of years. So I wish they would just stop and learn their history.
Well, I mean, and I'm going to just be honest with you as we wrap this up. The Palestinian state they're screaming for, they had one in Jordan, but they wouldn't behave themselves, and they acted like a bunch of terrorist punk thugs. And even Jordan, an Arab country, said, get the blank out. So where did they send them? They sent them into Israel and said, y'all take care of these poor Palestinians. And then the Arabs, in their thirst for the destruction of Israel, has used this group to do great harm against the Jewish state. And look, if I was Benjamin Netanyahu, Tony, I think he's got an open window right now to do what he's got to do. He does not need to listen to Washington, D.C. right now. He needs to carry out every measure to eradicate every Hamas terrorist and every Hezbollah terrorist and every Iranian terrorist he can find, and don't look back and think twice about it.
Here's one thing they could do. They could go in out of bounds, but they could go into Iran and they could bomb the holy living hell out of their infrastructure, as far not the civilians, but their oil, their ability to produce oil, because a lot of that money that's going to Hezbollah and going to Hamas is coming from oil that's being sold on the black market, and Biden is allowing that to happen. In there. I wouldn't blame Israel if they go in with jets and bomb the heck out of their oil infrastructure. It would stop a lot of this, because they wouldn't have the funds to keep sponsoring this kind of terrorism.
Well, good stuff. You got to, by the way, one quick cartoon note. You mentioned the election. You've got a wonderful cartoon about the COVID variant in 2024. It's called Election to the Election 2024 variant. So get ready to get your mask on and get your shot for that next year. I'm just giving the audience a heads up. Tony's got a great cartoon about that. Buddy, I appreciate you coming on this afternoon. I really do.
Thank you.
Comicallyincorrect.org. Listen, thank you so much. Is it .com? I always get it messed up. .com, right?
Comicallyincorrect.com.
I always mess up the .com.org. Listen, I'm going to have you back on soon. We're going to do a live cast with you. This whole week has been sort of crazy with the Israeli stuff, and but we're going to get you back on soon in a few weeks. And listen, stay loose and be safe. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to wrap us up. Final thoughts, and we'll say goodbye.
It's an absolute pleasure to be with you. Always is. I love your take on things. And I appreciate you having me on. And I just would advise people to stop watching MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, all those stupid shows. They're not telling you what you need to know. One of the shows I like to watch, and I hate to, is War Room with Steve Bannon.
Yeah,
it's not just news; it's telling you what is going on and what you can do about it. So I keep an eye on that. I keep an eye on your show, and just alternative media is where it's at.
It is right now, buddy. It sure is. Well, listen, my friend, be blessed, be safe out there. We'll talk to you soon. Folks, you've been watching a very special live McFiles recorded special with our dear friend, Tony Branco, comicallyincorrect.com. I'll be back with a few final thoughts after this. Thank you so much for being with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And we will be right back right here. There's the McMan. I was trying to download that last cartoon of his that he did about the COVID variant. I'm going to try to put it up right here if I can find it. Let me see here if it's, this will come up. There it is. It's right there. It was right there in front of me. It was below my mouse. This was the one that I was telling him about at the end. That's a good one. The new COVID outbreak is called the 2024 election variant. Don't doubt. They're going to mask you up out there, and they're going to do a lot of other things trying to get you to do whatever. All right. Now, it's 8:30, so we're a little early tonight, and I'm going to, if you'll let me give me 1 second here, I am going to open up the chat. I want to welcome all the Hamas people in tonight. Looks like we had a few Hamas people into Facebook tonight. We just want to welcome you here. Anyway, good grief. The crazies are out tonight. The crazies are out tonight. The crazies are out tonight. Oh, I'm going to tell Branco next time I see him. He brought the crazies out on this Monday night. Did you enjoy Tony Branco? If you did, put some fire in that house. And we're grateful for him on a pre-recorded interview. This was some good stuff tonight. I can't wait to get him on here live. But, man, oh, man, oh, man. I think everything we said, folks, I was sitting here laughing. I had to laugh a little bit. I always forget what I say on these pre-recorded interviews, and I was laughing at myself a little bit. I was like, that's pretty good, McDonald. And, let's see. We had a Muhammad in the house tonight. We had a Arafael. And I'm somebody else. I don't know who else we had. But anyway, we want to welcome Hamas in tonight. Barbarians. Pray for your soul. I really do. I pray for your soul. But I got no sympathy for you tonight. Now, Israel has delayed this ground war at the bequest of America. And I think it's the biggest mistake in the world. The more they delay it, the more Hamas gets dug in. Rumor has it that they're delaying it to get the hostages out. Hamas released 2 Israeli hostages tonight. They've released 2 Americans over the weekend. The funny thing about that, the absolute drop-dead funny thing, was when Hamas came out and said, we told you we're a humanitarian group, and the fascist government of the United States is lying about us being a terrorist organization. Excuse me. The old saying goes, let me cough. Excuse me. While I choke on some bullshit. And for those of you that know what bullshit means, just look at the name Schiff, and there's a certain member of Congress, and I'll let you figure out the rest. It's Ron Edwards. Ron Edwards could give you a better way to phrase that than I do. I was on his program Friday. Ron's got the best word in the world. I'm trying to keep this a family show. That's why I don't say what I want to say. And I am a man of faith, and I try to live right, and I don't want to say the things sometimes I want to say. I have to cut my tongue out. But I do get angry, folks. I get upset about this stuff. It bothers me. And it's hard sometimes not to let corrupt communication come out of your mouth about it. I'm just being honest. You're trying to bless. You're trying to find a silver lining in it. But folks, when you're confronting evil, there is no silver lining in evil. There's just not any silver lining in this. And this idea that we can cohabitate with evil and we can do this, and see, the title of our show tonight is Moral Clarity in America. And that's another thing that bothers me, folks. You've got Americans that do not have 1 ounce of moral clarity about this. They think Israel's the aggressor. They think it's all Israel's fault. They think it's Israel's fault that Hamas cut babies' heads off. They rape women. Troy sent me something tonight, NorCal, or Patriot, and I didn't get to listen to all of it, but Amir Tasadi, basically, I probably mispronounced his name, but he was saying that there are some evidences, and you pardon me for being a little graphic here, but there's evidence, or some evidence, that Hamas was raping dead females as an act of defiance against Israel. And you say, well, that's just absolutely grotesque. Well, folks, who the blank do you think we're dealing with here? We're not dealing with Ward Cleaver. We're not dealing with Romper Room. We're not dealing with the Marvel characters. We're dealing with terrorists, folks. We're dealing with barbarians. We're dealing with people that have lost all sense of civility, and they got no sense of it. But, you know, I understand Hamas and their hatred, because they were, again, that generation of terrorists, most of them as children have been indoctrinated from the crib up to hate Israel, to learn violence. They understand that. But the part of this that I'm having a hard time with, and I'm still having a hard time with it tonight, is the lack of moral clarity with Americans. We, as a freedom-loving nation, as a civilized nation, but because of Jew hatred and because of anti-Semitism, and yes, because of many in the church and many voices in the church that do not have any moral clarity at all. I was sent something today, and there's no name on it. I wouldn't name the name even if I had a name, but it was a preacher's wife in this country, and they made the statement that the Bible doesn't tell us anywhere that Jesus is coming to save the Jewish people. It just says that Jesus is coming to save Israel and her land. I want to ask this preacher's wife something tonight. Do you think that the Battle of Armageddon is going to be fought over dirt? Do you think that Jesus Christ is coming to save the dirt in Israel? No, he's not. But that is the lack of moral clarity, folks, that people have tonight. And without moral clarity, folks, you've got no society. When we cannot see evil and we can't define evil and understand what evil looks like, and we can't say that because we're bonded by either hatred, prejudice, racist, whatever we feel, bigotry, whatever it is that binds us to that moral clarity, that's more evil than the terrorists themselves. I understand the terrorists. They're just evil people. They're just terrorists. They're just terrorists. They're not humanitarian people. I don't care if they released every single hostage in the first place. Has somebody asked the blanking question in the media, why would there even be hostages to begin with if these people were humanitarian? Would anybody be dead if they were humanitarian? No, they won't ask that question. But I'll say it. Anyway. Great interview tonight with Tony Branco. Tony Branco. If you got a question for me real quick, we got about 10 minutes. I'll take a few questions from you about the show tonight. Folks, let me just say this. If you've got something to say about the show on the network, when we post a comment about the shows, please send me a personal message. Don't be posting on my private page, personal page. Elaine says, that was a nice way to put it. I would have been more crude. Elaine, I want to be more crude. Trust me, I do. If it was later at night when the kids are in bed, including some of these adult kids, I'd probably be more crude. But I got some children in the house I got to watch my language with. I'm with you. No, I'm with you. There's no way to frame this in a nice way. There's just no way to frame it. These people are demonically inspired killers. That's all they are, folks. This is demon possession. If you want to see I want to know where all these generational curse and all these demon slayers are, and all these people that have all these formulas to get these demons out of people. Why don't you go over to the Palestinian Authority and try to cast some devils out of these people, because these people have true demons in them. Was that crude enough for you, Lane? Oh, I think Elaine gave me a thumbs up on that one. Jeb Abner says, why does liberalism and atheism go hand in hand? Jeb, that's a great question. That's a great question. You know, that's a perfect question. I can't answer that totally. The same spirit's behind both, Jeb. The same spirit's behind both. It's a denial of God. Most liberals don't believe in God. Most liberals are anti-God, anti-Christ, and atheists don't believe God even exists. It's not a fad. And I wouldn't even say it's a fashion. It's a spirit. And it is a blindness on the mind. And we pray. Look, we pray for these liberal folks. I have got nothing but disgust for what they believe. I pray for their soul. But I've got nothing but disgust for what their views. I don't agree with one single thing of liberalism. Nothing. 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 I'm sure they don't agree with me either, and that's all right. That's all right. But anyway. Can this war lead back to the Battle of Armageddon? Do you think that this war can lead? Sharon, listen, nobody knows right now. It's too early to tell. We don't know where all this is going to lead. Look, this could end tomorrow. Israel could go in there, clean Hamas out. World raises hell a little bit about them doing that. Look, that's what bothers me with the delay tonight. The more they delay, I think the more lives are going to be lost, because all Hamas is doing is digging in. They're digging into these tunnels. They're digging into these hospitals. They're digging into these civilian areas. They're begging Israel to come in now. And it just reminds me, it's the stupidity of bureaucrats. It's the stupidity of governments. When we went into Iraq, I didn't understand Iraq totally. I did understand why Bush wanted to go in with the weapons of mass destruction. If there were truly weapons of mass destruction, I would have had no problem with what we did. But we didn't have to go be occupiers. But I swear, we announced we were coming for 6 months. No wonder they were waiting for us. You don't announce to your enemy. And see, people mocked President Trump. When he went after Syria, they mocked him because they kept begging him. The media kept baiting him up. Tell us. What you going to do? What you going to do? Congressional people, we demand that you tell us when and what time you're doing. Look, Congress ain't the commander-in-chief. Donald Trump's the commander-in-chief. Joe Biden is the clown-in-chief, but he is supposed to be the commander-in-chief. But let me tell you who Bibi Netanyahu is, folks. He's the prime minister of Israel, and he technically is the commander-in-chief in Israel. He don't answer to the United States. And my problem tonight, what he's doing, and I respect Bibi, and I respect the fact that he's doing everything he can with an air campaign, but he's going to keep delaying this, folks, and you mark my word, it's not going to be any easier 6 months from now, 6 weeks from now than it is right now. He better go in there now. He should have already been in there, it's my opinion. Sharon, your question is this. We don't know. It's a possibility, but Armageddon is at least 7 years after the rapture, Sharon. So, if you're going to believe that this is leading us to Armageddon, it has a possibility. I'd be keeping an eye on the eastern sky if you're a believer. I was telling somebody that tonight. I said, I'm fighting the fight with one eye these days, and I'm looking at the eastern sky. And I go to bed every night wondering if this is the night, or this is the day, or the noontime hour that Jesus is coming for the church. Folks, we're that close. Now, I don't have a date. I'm not going to put a date on it. But we know that the Battle of Armageddon takes place 7 years after the Antichrist signs a peace treaty with Israel. He confirms the covenant with them for a week. It takes place after the church is raptured out. Now, my gut feeling is this. Sharon, if it's not Armageddon, if it's not that, if this ain't the domino, what it's going to do is reshuffle the Middle East, because Netanyahu can do some things to Iran. He can do some things to Hamas. Everything that is going on ultimately is leading to Armageddon. I will say this. Everything in the world tonight is setting the stage for it long term whenever that day comes, because the Holy Spirit is at work orchestrating and allowing these events to take place because it is prepping the world for two things. Number one, it's prepping the world for a man of peace. Think about this tonight, folks. What would happen if somebody stepped into the Israeli-Hamas, and not really even the Hamas, but the Israeli-Iranian conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? What if somebody stepped into the world situation with China and Taiwan? What would happen if all this fighting in the world stopped and ceased because one man figured it out how to get the nations on board with one government to basically placate the Palestinians, placate Israel? That man would be heralded not only as a wonderful wonder, but Israel themselves would sell their soul to him for their safety. Sort of sounds like Daniel said they would do. Sort of sounds like what Paul said they would do in 2 Thessalonians. So, Sharon, all things ultimately are setting the stage for it, but I cannot be certain tonight this is the domino that's about to lead to the actual Battle of Armageddon. It's getting close. And I will tell you this, anytime you see something going on in the Middle East, folks, this is the stage of where the prophetic strain. Look, we've got a series of sermons and studies for the next several months on our faith shows on Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. I encourage you, if you are part of a McFiles regular show listener, if you want to come in and hear us talk about this spiritually from a biblical point of view, join us Wednesday nights at 8. We're going to try to start going a little earlier on Wednesday night. But Sunday morning at 10 and then Sunday night at 7. And maybe 6 sometimes. But join us for the next several weeks. We're going to be dealing with Israel. We're dealing right now with Israel and the church. But we're going to come a Sunday night teaching on Israel and prophecy. So Sharon, your question is legit. It's a good one, but I don't think that can be answered. I don't think it can be answered right now. We have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. It is very scary, friend. It is very scary, and I think that we all are watching, and I think we need to be very, very concerned about what's happening. I can only pray that BB is waiting on a word from God. Shar, look, I don't know what BB's faith is. Shar, let me say this about BB's faith. BB's Jewish. I don't know if he's a believer in Jesus. God may be allowing a lot of this tonight. I don't think he's waiting on a word from God. I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but I don't think that's BB's mindset right now. No, BB is being pressured by the United States of America not to invade Gaza. And he's listening to Joe Biden. He ain't listening to God. Because I'm going to tell you something. You cannot, in no uncertain terms, not respond to this without cleaning Hamas out, Char. If they don't, Hamas does it again. And next time, it won't be 1,500, it will be 15,000. Hezbollah is chomping at the bit from the north. Iran's watching what Israel does. And they're watching what America does. Now, I will say this. The only time that I read about in Scripture where Israel is defeated militarily is when the Antichrist invades her in the middle of the tribulation period. It will be at that point that she will realize that the man of sin that they trusted was an imposter. And that is really the catalyst for when they start turning to God. I do not see Israel being defeated until then. So whatever Israel does, I'm not saying that it's not going to be without peril and it's not going to be without danger and there ain't going to be lives lost, but I don't worry about Israel's future tonight. I know what Israel's future is. I know what she's about to go through. I know how it's going to end. I know where she's going to be saved. And because I study the Bible and the Word of God, I know exactly what's coming. This situation is a little weird because, again, it's against not a nation, it's against a terrorist group. They need to clean that terrorist group out. This is not a state. They are on Israeli territory. They're Israel's, basically, I look at them as squatters. I look at the Palestinians and nothing but squatters. And Israel's not the occupier, folks. And you heard Tony Branco. I was really proud of Tony. He mentioned the land thing. And be with me Wednesday night. We're going to deal with the land. We're going to bring the land situation all the way into the current times to show you this conflict, how it has evolved, the history of the land, and going back to the reformation of Israel in 1948. Let me just make my daily reminder that Israel was not founded in 1948, folks. She was reformed as a nation in 1948. God's the one that formed Israel. He says in Isaiah 43:1, I have formed you, O Jacob, and I have engrafted you in the palm of my hand. It don't sound like the Rothschilds did that. It don't sound like the Mossad did that. It don't sound like any other evil entity that people claim is out there did that. And it sure don't sound like a bloodline did it. I'll amen myself tonight for the first time on this Monday night. I'm in a red shirt McFiles mood. Now, do I hope Bibi's listening to God? Sure. It would probably be wise if he was. But I can't be for certain. I can't be for certain. I hope he's listening to the United States, sadly. And I told Tony he don't need to be listening to us right now. This is his nation. It's not America. Look, if America's not going to get in there and help him do it, then they need to get their blanks back to D.C. and this liberal, feckless, useless government go do whatever they want to do. Let Israel take care of its business. Israel, you heard Gadon last week, and you heard Stephen Jaffe, or Michael Jaffe last Monday night, a week ago tonight. Israel fights their own battles. They don't need the United States helping them. And why they're delaying this is only God's guess. I will tell you that. That is in only God knows. I will say that. I will say that. All right. Jeb, your question, why would anybody consider anything else because of ignorance and unbelief? That's why. That's why. Ignorance and unbelief. Ignorance and unbelief. Ignorance and unbelief. Sharon, I'm glad you're listening to us on Wednesday night and Sunday morning and Sunday night. I'm grateful for you being there, my dear. Thank you for that. If you don't have a profile pic, Facebook automatically hides it. We will endeavor to make you post public. It's fine. But thank you, Jeb. Your statement is right. The boundaries of Israel were set by God. And why would Bibi or anyone else consider anything else? That's a great question. And I will tell you this, Jeb. I've got a book I suggest you read. John McTurnan called me. Me and John are going to be doing a prophecy conference this fall in Houston. I got to call him tomorrow. He called me tonight. I didn't get a chance to get back with him. We're going to be dealing with these subjects. And sometime soon. That land, Jeb, you nailed it. It don't belong to Israel. God gave it to her, but that land's his land. And Bibi, and Joe, and Donald, and other former presidents have found this out the hard way. Bill Clinton, George Bush Jr., George Bush Sr., Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, all of them that have tried to tinker with that land have found out that there's a blessing attached to leaving God's land alone, and there's a curse attached to messing with God's land. Now, I don't know, Obama was another one. Me and John are under the agreement that Obama was our judgment during his 8 years for doing this. Joe may be our judgment tonight for doing it. Your point's well taken. The reason they do it is they don't fear God. That's some of it. But some of it is that media-driven ignorance and this demonic idea that Israel can give up their land for peace. Folks, let me remind you, the land grant of Genesis 15:18 goes from the Nile River to the Euphrates. When Jesus Christ comes back, Israel won't see that land grant until Jesus comes back. I can tell you that. But when she comes back to Christ and repents as a nation and is saved in a day, that's going to be her land grant. I don't know what these anti-Semites are going to do when Israel controls 1/3 of the Middle East. I want them to kneel before the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords and says, you can't do this. Mossad formed this nation. That's Mossad. Mossad did that. I can't wait for that moment. And yeah, I'm being a little facetious tonight for a reason. I'm being a little facetious. By the way, he ain't coming back to save dirt, folks. He's coming back to save the people of Israel. He's coming back to save the Jewish people. Anyway, let's see here. We got about 2 minutes. Corey Aguilar with a weak government. How high of a chance China will invade Taiwan? Corey, that is high tonight. And I read something. We posted something in Gateway Pundit. We sent a carrier to the Pacific tonight. That is very high. it goes back to what you said. Your point is well taken, dear friend. I'm telling you, it's well taken. They see our weakness too. They see our weakness too, and they're chomping at the bit while we've got our attention in the Ukraine to a fraudulent war, and of course the Middle East and so forth. China is biting at the bit. Yes. So is Russia. But it would not surprise me if we woke up in the next few days to find out they've invaded Taiwan. It would not surprise me. I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me. At this point, I like what Tony said at the end. I wouldn't put nothing past this government, wouldn't put nothing past any of them out right there tonight. So how high a chance? I would, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it about an 8. I'd give it about an 8. And that's pretty high. That's pretty high. Anyway. All right, folks, I think that's going to do us tonight. And the reason I'm going to cut it out, yep. And no scripture posted in the chat room, folks. We don't need you posting scriptures. Our moderators do that. That's why we have moderators. Thank you, though, but let our moderators do that, okay? Listen, it's 9 o'clock. I hope you enjoyed Tony Branco. We're not done. James R. is warming up in the bullpen. It's 9 o'clock. Give us about an hour and 15 minutes. We'll be back on strictly the E-Network and Facebook again tonight, and the Twitter handles. And the children need to stay out of the chat room is all I got to say tonight for the late show. Because James is a little wired up. And I don't know what James is going to say. But if you want to come and be an adult with us, then you can come be an adult and just listen. I don't control what my guests say, and I don't put a muzzle on them. I let them say what they got to say. I don't necessarily have to agree with everything they say, but James R. is James R. But he's got some thoughts about what's going on tonight, and I'm going to run some of these things by him. And folks, right now, all hands are on deck. I can't worry about a few words that some of you don't like for the sake of the country. This is a fight. This is a war. And we got to fight like in 1776. And for the adults that want to come join us later tonight, come on, be back with us at 10:15. Should be fun. I may have to don the asbestos suit and the cowboy hat for this one late night. But did you enjoy Tony Branco? Let's talk about Tony right now. We'll get to James R. later. Put some fire in that house. For the one and only, my dear buddy, Tony Branco, on that pre-recorded interview. Good stuff tonight. ComicallyIncorrect.com if you haven't visited his website. Now, he's going to be back with me live pretty soon, possibly this week or next, so we'll see. But until tonight on the Late Night McFiles Monday, have a good one, everybody. And we've got some guests coming this week. I'm afraid to announce them. Every time I announce somebody, they back out on me, so I'm not going to announce nobody just yet. But we got some good people coming this week and next. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless this great nation of America. Oh. Never a dull moment, huh? Never a dull moment. We're glad you've been with us tonight. Have a good one. I'll see you late night with the James R. Man. Be blessed, everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. And we'll see you a little bit later tonight. God bless you guys. See you.